Hey, what's up, everybody? Hope you're enjoying the new year so far. It's Wednesday, the 15th of January, 2020, or as I like to say, it is Wednesday today. So behind me, you can see a lot of cannabis products. To my right, to your left, is all of our CBD hash. Behind me, I have hemp wraps, papers, trays, and to my left are many different flavored papers as well as a few other items. Behind the camera are things like cannabis lollipops, there's lighters, we've got pipes, bongs, scales, grinders. We have, as far as CBD is concerned, we've got drops, sprays, pet products, we've got creams, we've got massage oils, we've got face masks, bath bombs, we've got sports drinks, we've got water, we've got fizzy juice with CBD in it. We've got many products, even down to the raw flower. But where did this journey start for me? How the hell did I end up here, especially considering that my mantra to life was always to stay away from drugs. Drugs are bad, okay? I had that very much an 80s thought process when it came to drugs in general. I remember I almost said I shat. I remember I sat next to this boy in English class when I was in high school, one of the high schools I went to, and this boy in English class was always talked about by the teacher. Oh, that's where he is. That's why he's not in class. He's away smoking that dacha or ganja or that cannabis. He's away smoking the weed. And I was always kind of anxious over that sort of mentality where, I didn't really understand it. That was the whole point in my, I would say now is in my flaw at the time, in my personality, was that I wasn't as welcoming to that person as I could have been had I known more about cannabis than I did. But it was very much an era, a time of drugs are bad and therefore they should never be used. Nobody ever talked about alcohol being a drug, or tobacco being a drug, or coffee being a drug, or sex being a drug. Nobody ever mentioned these things. Something as simple as going running can produce an addictive behavior. These things very much went over my head. I lived in an extremely traumatic environment as I was growing up, and it wasn't something that I jumped on to escape my life. I found out about other things later on in life that were not cannabis at all. They were not alcohol, and they were not cigarettes or tobacco. I went in another direction with drugs use, and that at one point, actually, when I would have been 16, almost lost my life. Almost suffocated to death with 4 other people that I was with. Luckily, I came to in time, and I was able to assist everybody else and get them back in, out of this miniature coma, I guess, that we were all in at the time. So I feel very lucky to have survived that incident. It's quite a harrowing experience to have had, one of many experiences in my life. And I've been very much a loner all my life, I would say. I like to sail alone. I've done many sports where I've in football, for example, I played club football for 10 years. I've played club cricket. I've played club tennis. I've been a BMX rider. I used to ride for Rockstar Energy Drink. They would give me free stuff and whatnot. But this journey for cannabis, I didn't see coming. I had no idea. I've been offered a couple times as I was getting older, and at one point I could even, I don't want to go into that other point now, but that's a hell of a funny story as well. I don't want to go into that side of it, but I was really put off by it. I just didn't want to go near it. When I come back from Ireland, I was working at Electric Picnic in Ireland. I was working with my brother, and we came back home again. And when he got home, the first thing he wanted to do was make a joint, you know, with weed. And I seen him sitting. He was in his own flat as well. He was sitting down on the chair, and he still. He doesn't hate me, but he dislikes me for this singular incident. He was skinning up. He was making a joint, rolling papers together and putting his tobacco and cannabis in there, and I just seen red. I just thought that's drugs, and that was 13 years ago. I was 23 at the time, and I was like, please, just get out of the house, go and do that somewhere else. You know, I was kind of conscious as well. My son was on the way. In fact, at this point, my son just had his scan to find out it was a boy. So this actually would have been 2006. He was born on the 11th of January. So I just had his 13th birthday a few days ago. It's crazy to be a dad to a teenager, knowing what my life was like when I was a teenager. So it's awesome to be able to give back to him. And you know, give him the respect that he deserves as a child or as a human, whereas that was not something that was awarded to me growing up. So I feel very blessed to have lived the life I have, to have the experiences that I've had, so that I can give back. You know, I can give back. I'm a very extremely giving person. There's very little that I wouldn't give to anybody. So what you see behind me has actually been an entire labor of love. On the 1st of January 2017, I launched my online store. Within a couple of months, I quickly found out that I was not going to be able to run an online cannabis store. It was extremely early days as far as card payments are going. I mean, just recently within the last 6 months, 7 months, something like that, Donald Trump has signed the Farm Bill, the hemp Farm Bill. That has helped loads. The Americans, the people in the US, they can tell you how much that hemp bill has helped them. But just on a world platform, everything is changing now. We're able to make card payments now. We're able to take card payments. We're able to store money in our banks, whereas this is something that's there's not been a part of the culture. So when the hemp bill was signed, there's a lot of change has gone underway, and because of that, there's a lot more freedom now than there was just 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So I think that the developments now would have helped me in the beginning, but had I had the developments in the beginning, had I had the ones now in the beginning, then I don't think I will have had as much knowledge about the industry as I wanted to. But because I've had to go through these hoops and jump through so many of these hoops, it has really helped me determine, you know, what directions to take my products in, what I can sell, what I can't sell, and ways that I can manipulate what I can't sell to a point where I can sell it or I can advertise about it. I've been banned from many platforms. I can't even tell you. So many adverts have been denied or rejected by Facebook or Instagram. It's not been easy getting into this. So in January of 2017, when I started the online store, I was under the impression that this was going to go swimmingly, that this was going to be simple. I just looked around at all the other sites and just thought, nobody is doing what I want to do. Why? And I couldn't understand it at the time. But until March 2017, the 7th of March 2017, that's when I moved into my first premises. You could not have more than 5 people in that shop at any one time, otherwise it would have been full. So for about 2.5 years, I plugged away. There were weeks that went by sometimes where I didn't turn over a single penny. My kids still talk about it now as well. They say, remember that whole week, Dad, where zero went into the till? So that was just, that was some hiccups that I had to experience in the beginning to get me to the point that I am now. To my right, I have a huge area that is just dedicated to glassware. Everything here on my left and behind you is all CBD and hemp related as well. This cost me £300 in the beginning. £300 is what I had to spend. I spent that. I bought my products. I had 2 boxes of papers. I had a shelf with 2 boxes of papers. I had 2 bongs on that shelf, and that was me ready to go. I would sit in the shop behind the till for maybe 2 to 3 hours a day and wonder why no one was coming through my shop. So yeah, getting to this point now is incredible. It's so much further than I ever imagined I could get. I just had a single amount of determination that I kind of focused on. I said, you've got to keep going with this, otherwise what you plan is never going to come to fruition. So I've actually had to change my personality a whole lot just in the way that I do things. For example, even running an advert. For me in the past, it was like, right, going through it, should I run the advert? Should I not? What will people think? Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And I had so many teething problems in the beginning, from my own mental health to the financial side of the business. It was just incredible. There's a lot of work that's gone into this to get us this far. So in the beginning, I was 13 years ago, and I kicked my brother out of his flat. It wasn't for another at least another 2 years. I would say 1.5 years, 2 years before I actually had my first toke of cannabis. Now, I was diagnosed with high functioning autism, ADHD. They can't decide which one they want to give me, but we'll just go with the ADHD, high functioning autism as one, because I think it's pretty much misdiagnosed. Sometimes you know ADHD, but anyway, it doesn't matter. This was the first time I had ever felt my brain slow down. A lot of people say that about cannabis, like, oh yeah, it helps me think and blah blah blah. And to be honest, in the beginning, that's exactly what it did. And I've learned ways that it doesn't help me, and I've learned ways that it does help me, and I've learned to I've learned how much I need to use at a given time, and what's good and what's bad, and all of these different things about the cannabis plant for myself personally. I've had to learn through trial and error, and many a bad situation that I've been in just trying to get cannabis in the first place. So going through all of this, going through my mental health, going through starting to use cannabis, it made me realize that I had a lot of problems. The cannabis actually made me realize that, shit, I'm like this way, and when this happens, I react like this, and when that happens, I react like that. So the cannabis really helped me to focus in and hone in on all of the problems that I had with my own personality, and eventually that led to me having a far greater understanding of myself, and actually let me be free. So I started seeing a psychologist because I suffer from PTSD as well, post-traumatic stress disorder. And I'm not going to go into that right now, but I have waking nightmares. Like, I will walk in my sleep. I will scream at people in my sleep. I will do things, lash out in my sleep. All kinds of little things that I'm not really proud of in my personality. Or at least I wasn't, because I didn't really understand why these things were happening. But through talking, I realized some of the things that I had issues with and why I had issues with them. And when it came to the cannabis, what that really helped me with was kind of go back in my mind and think about it, really ponder on all of those things. And that had an effect where it allowed me to change my own self, to become better than what my brain was telling me I was. I was able to slow down my thoughts, focus on my life. I started writing almost immediately. So the first few years of cannabis use were very much, it was more of a dark kind of time, because I didn't really know how how to use cannabis. I was very much with other friends who were cannabis consumers, but nobody ever thought about the health side of it. It was very much, let's just get high. Now, the let's just get high bit helped me incredibly. But after a while, I started to think, it was actually my cousin that mentioned it. He said, you only skin up because of the tobacco. The only reason you make a joint is because of the tobacco. But I was trying to tell him at the time that, but I feel better from the cannabis, and that's why I'm going to the cannabis. And he said, well, and he's a smoker. He's the kind of guy who's like, I never want to stop smoking cigarettes or anything. He's that kind of guy. But he was telling me, that's why you're going back to skin up and whatnot. And so I went pure. I went pure about 8 years ago. So that brought my consumption down incredibly. It also made me realize a lot more about cannabis as well. And in fact, I found it a lot better to use as a pure substance, and it is a lot better. It's far healthier, way more options for me as far as consumption is concerned. I'm not just limited to that tobacco type joint. So I've had to develop through this all the time, and I'm not worried about whether or not somebody uses tobacco. If you use tobacco, if you don't use tobacco, or whatever, that's not my issue. My issue was with me and how that affected me and what I did on a daily basis just because of that, and how much money extra I was spending because of that habit as well. So I've had to develop that too. So I've got to the point now where I've been going to the psychologist, and we've been, talking about some of the past issues and whatnot and things. And one day because they were trying to get me to go and take, well, they were giving me two different pills. One was Concerta XL, and I cannot remember the other one's name, but they just made me break out into incredible sweats. I was sweating everywhere, and I couldn't control it. It was just pouring out of me all the time. And even the psychologist was like, "That's crazy. I've never seen a reaction like that." But about a year before that, 2 years before that, I was prescribed tramadol for my back pain. Which we later diagnosed as IBS. So I was actually given tramadol for IBS. I was given opiates for a food eating dilemma, let's call it. So I'd learned from that if I was having a bodily reaction, or if I did have some kind of reaction from the medication, it's probably not the best thing to be using. So a lot of these medications will create another problem, and then you have to get medication to counteract that problem, and it's just an absolute bucket of worms. So I said to the psychologist, one day I went in and I said, you know what, that's it. Last night I bought a bong. I'm going to start smoking pure weed, and that's it. That's it. That's what I'm going to do. And I did, and I've never looked back. And that's been, like I say, about 8 years now, I would say. And it's been incredible. It's been absolutely eye-opening, to the point that I pulled myself even further out of my personality. I was so, like, even my grandfather would, in my first flat that my parents had helped me buy, they became guarantors for that. My grandfather was there all the time, and I suffered so badly from depression and anxiety that my grandfather would come down, rest in peace, my granddad, because he was a good guy. He would come in and help me with the house, and get everything set up and drill this in and screw that out. And I would just lie under the covers. I just wouldn't leave. I would be under those covers like 12 to 15 hours a day. I would get up for some food and I'd go back again. There's been periods of depression in my life that have been absolutely horrendous, where I've very, very, very nearly taken my own life a good few times now. So we run out of We run out of recording there, but yeah, I'm just really thankful for the cannabis plant in general. It's helped me develop this store through developing my personality. If it weren't for that, I would not be here today. So I'm extremely thankful for the plant and what it has given to me. So that's why I've got the store. I always wanted a store. I used to have an online BMX shop many years ago. Then when the markets crashed, our tax was risen, and at the point that our taxes were risen, all of the frames, the BMX frames and the BMX parts, and everything I wanted for the shop, it just skyrocketed in price, and nearly nobody could afford anything at that point. So building the business at that time was it was not really a viable option for me, because I wasn't as determined as I needed to be in order to run a business of the magnitude that I had in mind. Now, having started from £300, this is where we're at now. I'm quite proud of all of this, but at the same time, apart from it being a labor of love, it has been a total and utter crazy festival. I have no business teaching, no business training. I didn't finish primary school. I was moved from primary school, from halfway through primary school, which I was failing at the time, with Fs, like Ds, Es, and Fs. I was moved to the UK, where I went from primary school into the second year of high school because of my age. I spent 10 months here in the UK, and then I went back to South Africa again, where I was put back to the first year of high school. And then halfway through, I was told that if I did not pass my first year of high school, that they would then demote me back to my last year of primary school, because according to my previous school, I didn't actually finish primary school. So that was the threat at the time when I was 14. And 14 is also, funnily enough, when I got expelled from high school. 14 is also when I started to live on my own, to do my own thing, to work my own jobs, do my own stuff, live my own life. And yeah, there's quite a few stories in and around that, but cannabis was never on my menu of life. It was no drugs were on my menu of life. Nothing, nada, none of them. I didn't want to be involved in that sort of thing. Even now, sometimes it can be quite hair-raising. People will continuously mention businesses. Other businesses will continuously mention that I am pushing boundaries, that what I'm doing is not what everybody else out there is doing who's involved in this community, and I'm really trying to pull the lid off of cannabis in the UK, because after all, the UK government has been growing it for the last 21 years. 21 years we've been growing cannabis, since 1998. So it's 22 years now, actually. So that's incredible. We sell 100 tons of cannabis a year, while for medicinal purposes, while maintaining to the UK population that it has no medicinal benefit. It's an absurd state of affairs that we have right now, with Theresa May's husband being in charge of GW Pharmaceuticals, or at least being one of the lead investors in GW Pharmaceuticals, and Victoria Atkins' husband being involved in British Sugar, and they just grow cannabis, and that's all they do. British Sugar used to grow tomatoes, but the cannabis industry is so lucrative that British Sugar now grows cannabis under license from our government. It's absolutely incredible, and we're just being lied to all the time. So I've never held back since I started my YouTube channel in around about 2014, 13, something like that. I've just been very vocal, and not vocal in the way of holding picket signs and standing at the police station and shouting at police. I just been vocal as in, I enjoy cannabis. If you ask me about it, I will tell you about it. I'm quite happy to do that. There's no animosity from my side with regards to that sort of question. I love to talk about my cannabis consumption, and it's a lot of the reason why this business exists, is because of how diverse that plant actually is, how much it can actually help, and how many different ways that we can use it. So to me, it's fascinating. I'm really, really fascinated by the cannabis plant. So that's why I'm involved in this industry now. So yeah, we went from £300 investment, and plus there was probably, you know, some other money there as well that that helped along, but the main investment was about £300, and now we turn that over, well, we turn plus that over daily anyway. We're about £120,000 a year or so turnover right now, and I hope that that grows. I'm not the kind of person that's out there trying to make money for myself. Money's nice. It can help me expand the shop. It can help me in many ways. One of the main things it can do is help pay all my rents and my bills and all of that. The other thing it can do is pay my staff, who actually genuinely get paid more money than I do, just because I'm investing everything into this business. I know how important this is for the community, and I just want to see it succeed. So yeah, I'm in it to win it, as they say. I think that's my coffee machine making some noise. But yeah, I hope you all have a good day. I know this video dragged on just a little bit, but yeah, see you soon, and cheers everyone.